Well, I didn't think I'd see this coming, but I suppose I really should have, given, Owen Jones's track record on this. Because if you remember back during the Corbyn days, um, Owen Jones loved momentum. He loved Jeremy Corbyn. But as I've said time and time again, Corbyn was a awful leader of the Labour Party. I will go on that hill any day and stand that position. I am more than happy to have a serious talk with people on that. And again, I'm happy to be on that side of the debate for it. But when it comes to Owen Jones not being happy, then you've got a problem. Because now it looks like Owen Jones is starting to be unhappy at the Green Party. Oh, yes. And this is just the first piece he has ever written. And bear in mind, it was not that too long ago where Owen Jones was singing the praises of how great and wonderful they are. Well, not anymore, I'm afraid. Not anymore. Looks like Owen Jones is starting to be unhappy at the Green Party. And it really looks like, bear in mind, really starting to look like that what we have here and the group that he's supporting in the Green Party is basically just green momentum. Yes, green momentum. He is supporting these people. It's basically green momentum. And then, interestingly enough, we're going to read some of the comments below Owen's piece because I think it goes to really show you the real problem the Green Party actually has, not the perceived problem Owen Jones says that the Green Party has. Because he says that the Green Party, their biggest problem is they're just too nice. They're just too nice. And he lays into the Green Party quite specifically, which is again what he did later when he started being upset and angry, of course, at Labour. So I'm sorry, Green Party, but it looks like, given Owen Jones' track record, might not be your biggest supporter in a couple of years. I cannot wait until we see, and I'm predicting this now. I am predicting this right now, putting in a future phone call. Give it maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years time. I think we'll be seeing an article written by Owen Jones about how the Green Party has failed. Like, I'm putting in that future phone call right now to future me saying, hello, future me. Has Owen Jones written that article yet? Oh, he has? Do tell me more. So, video maybe in a couple of years' time. But trust me, this is how it starts. This is how it starts. But before we do get into this, please do, like I say, remember to click on the like, the share button, the Patreon page down below. There's the Buy Me Coffee link where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there is the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this because Owen Jones not happy with the Green Party. And I think, to me, how this comes across is Owen Jones definitely seems to come across as if he is owed stuff by the Green Party, which is not a good way for him, I think, to be viewing this. And I think if I were the Green Party, I'd be upset by it and how he's written this as well. So the first part is, again, lays into Labour says, they're terrible, they're failing. Says, you don't understand. It's all about, having, dividing lines, and Greens have got to be on the other dividing line. And then this is where he comes into it. This is where he starts laying into the Green Party. There's no point reading this because this is just typical Owen Jones anger and frustration. If you've read an Owen Jones piece, you've pretty much seen this before. So here we go then. So he says, part of the problem lies with the Greens' social media strategy. He said their presence is largely dire. Videos are now mostly dull, badly shot, and frequently focus on parliamentary appearances that do little to actually engage voters, or at least voters' interest. Where was their, quote, Save Our Grannies campaign over the winter fuel payment, with a short video offering emotional testimonies from struggling pensioners? Quite frankly, don't think the Greens, if they got into power, they would have kept the winter fuel allowance either. And that's actually quite true. The Greens were very quiet about this because that didn't happen. You know, the Conservatives have made to be look a bit kind of fools when it does come to this winter fuel allowance stuff, because there is no, shivering grannies out there, because anyone who could and needed the winter fuel allowance got to keep it, while other people didn't get to keep it because, well, they were a lot better off. So, and then this is where he starts naming people. And bear in mind, Owen Jones did this in the past as well, not only to Momentum, where he had a big falling out with Momentum, if people can remember that, but yeah, he's calling out someone specifically. So, as things stand, the party's communications and thereby its social media strategy is in the hand of Molly Scott Cato, a retired climate academic and former member of the European Parliament. Within the party, there is a respect at her commitment. She attends every meeting, but there is now a growing frustration at her risk aversion and failure now to reach broader audiences. Well, here's the thing. To reach broader audiences, you've got to have your messaging right and correct. It's not just, here's our policy, it's how that policy is then communicated to your different audiences, right? The Green Party does not care about broadening its audience. It doesn't even care about broadening its voter base beyond its traditional environmentalists that is basically make up the core of the party. So why then are they suddenly going to start broadening their audience? And this is where now you have got the rump of Momentum that left the Labour Party, still so upset over Corbyn, have now joined the Green Party and have now created their own green version of Momentum. So, like I say, if you are in the Green Party, good luck. Good luck. So what the party, of course, needs is a social media professional. That will cost money, but that can be easily crowdfunded then by asking supporters to help them challenges Farage's growing and lethal online dominance. Really? A social media professional, bear in mind, this is my background, so I know how much one would cost. If you want a good one, you probably at least have to start paying them probably 28 a year. You probably don't need them in an office, so at least that cuts that cost. However, there will be travel expenses because they will have to go and do all these videos and things like that. So maybe they do have to be in the office. I don't know. That will probably dependent on the talks between them and the Green Party, who will be their employer. And then you'll be looking at their tools they will need, because they will need things like Canva. They will need a license to that. They will need other software that will help them, like with social media listening tools. So you're probably looking, I would say, all cost in total, you're probably looking to pay a social media professional around about maybe 35 grand a year. And that's, again, at a guess. That's with me doing it off the top of my head. And most of that is going to go into their pay. Like I say, if you want a good one. Can the Green Party afford that? I don't know. I don't know what their finances are, but maybe that is what they should be looking at. So help them challenge the dominance. These videos should now, of course, be now a blend of the sharp and provocative, witty or aggressive as necessary. They should pitch now at disillusioned Labour voters with videos telling them that their old party has abandoned them and that they should turn to the Greens. But that was what your message was at the last election. That's what Owen Jones's whole thing has been for at least the past, 12 months, even during the general election. That, ignore Labour, go join the Greens. Maybe, Owen, that message maybe doesn't resonate with as well as people as you think. And you're going to look now in the comments in a couple of minutes why that is. So the Green came second in over 40 different seats, overwhelming urban Labour-held constituencies. They should now be throwing all they have at these seats by trying to identify key issues that come out on top of those areas, such as the cost of living and housing. Well, good luck building any housing with the Greens in charge and having a Green MP, but who knows? Then, of course, trying to run dynamic, fiery campaigns around them. 2 out of the 4 seats they won were, of course, in rural, former Tory-held constituencies, which are, of course, nothing like their usual targets. But this should not distort their priorities. And that is because I think I've talked to you about this before. Greens talk themselves as they are watermelons. And you are either a completely green through and through, meaning you vote locally and nationally, you vote Green, or you are green-red, meaning you vote locally Green, but nationally you vote Labour, or you are green-blue. Again, it just goes to show you the strange coalition that goes on here. But if you won those rural seats from Tory constituencies, are then you going to then lose those Tory constituencies when you then have to start targeting those inner urban, constituencies? Because your running strategy, or at least what you would expect from me, like to be a national strategy, especially if you were going to go run for a general election, you would have to really alter how you would run on that. And then those policies that would appeal to those urban ex-former Labour voters you are apparently trying to get, are those policies going to then appeal to those former rural Tory voters who then you might now then lose, meaning that your other Green co-leader loses their seats? The other thing he talks about is how they should be more angry. Biggest problem why they can't be angry is because there are 2 co-leaders. You've got Carla Denyer and Adrian What's-his-face. I can't remember his second name, but I know it's Adrian something. But because they are so co-leaders, if Carla Denyer says something, if he's not on board with it, then they get into arguments and it looks very, very bad. I've been predicting, and I still do predict at some point there is going to be a falling out between those 2. I really do think that. I think Green parties, for some reason, have had this obsession throughout Europe that, we've got to have co-leaders. Like co-leaders, and having co-leaders is the way forward. Dilutes your message, dilutes who is like the main talking person. Co-leaders is not how any other party, I think, in the world runs their political party. Maybe this whole idea of having dual leadership is not a very good strategy because it dilutes your message. Maybe that's something to think on. But hey, that's for internal Green Party politics, right? Oh boy, that will be interesting, because if you dissolve that co-leadership, who would then become the leader, Carla Denyer or Adrian? Let the fight begin. And then this is where he talks about the Green momentum. He says some Greens actually get it, such as the deputy leader, Zach Polonsky, who understands that caution now and playing safe in this age of rage is now a doomed strategy. A new left-wing faction Greens organize is determined to now shift the party, but They need to move past the predictable infighting that often afflicts the left. So, wait, determined to shift the party? Shift it to what? And what exactly are they shifting to? Is the question. Because if they do, again, want to push new ideas or things within the party, just as we saw with Momentum, that's going to cause infighting. That is going to cause infighting. So, if you're a member of the Green Party and this is your first time hearing about Greens organize, you may suddenly start hearing a lot more about them throughout the year. So, so he finishes off. If the party now doesn't start picking attention-grabbing fights, the agenda will now instead be defined by reform. Labour will, of course, very happily conclude that the only real pressure comes from the right and respond accordingly. The Greens have made now commendable progress, but unless they actually realise that playing nice is the worst possible strategy of our age, Britain will now continue to sink into the same political abyss as our US cousins. I don't think it's playing nice that's the Greens' problem. I think it's more their policy, their really weird messaging when it comes out about these policies, the lack of, I think, belief in some of their policies. Somehow they themselves, their own problems that they have in party that causes their own thing. They've got the NIMBYs versus the YIMBYs going on in their party as well. There's so much kicking off in the Green Party that doesn't get covered, that doesn't get talked about. I do like he does say this again, determined to shift the party, but shift it to what? And what is Greens organized going to be pushing? And why is that not going to cause infighting? Because if you look into Greens organized, they are basically just Momentum, but in the Green Party. Good luck. So now I want to shift on to some of these comments, because I think this is really gets at some of the real stuff. So this is one. But the Greens now are already a perfect exemplar of their politics already. They are mostly now the far leftists with all the political guile of that particular class. It is not that they are too polite, it is that they don't understand how to convince people. They win in areas where there is now a preponderance now of the wealthy and the people still angry that the Corbyn era ended in now predictable failure. Just as with Just Stop Oil, those tactics have now managed to turn an entire generation off environmentalism. The Greens don't get that change comes when you convince the right people with the right arguments. They should get out of electoral politics and work on the Labour and Tory MPs whose constituencies see the economic and social value of environmentalism. Net zero is already government policy, by the way. Again, yep. And then there's some other here, yeah. So Owen talks about what is missing in the Green parties is an appreciation of class politics. So someone responded to this when he said this in his comment. He said, "This is true, but not in the way Owen thinks. You could count the number of active, non-affluent Green Party voters on the fingers of the hands of a clumsy butcher. For millions of people whose primary focus is now earning enough to put food on the table and pay the bills, the idea of the Green policies are completely irrelevant / self-indulgent at best and often downright offensive." He's not wrong. One of the biggest problems with environmentalist policies is right now everyone is thinking cost of living crisis. But there are some environmental policies out there that if they went through with them, if they followed through on some of them, these would make the cost of living crisis worse. That is a fact. And they don't appreciate that some of their policies will lead to that. And there is no thinking about, how this will actually affect the working class, because there is no class politics when it comes to environmentalism and environmentalists. It's not part of their ideology. That is a very, very left-wing sort of idea. And environmentalism can be, both on the left and the right, but that's never been a core part of of environmentalism, thinking about class politics. Uh, Someone else says here, I do vote Green sometimes, but this Green Party I find unappealing. I like the Green policies, but maybe they've been in government, so now they just seem a bit greenwashed. Someone else said here, I always vote Green, but whilst accepting their appeal is not and will never be substantial enough to place them in a position of real power. Its numerous now identity evolutions since the 1970s origins have at times smacked of desperation, eager for recognition. I'm not working class, council house born. Dad was a taxi driver. Mum a magnificent mum of home, and not quite what my local party members feel at ease with. Believe me, the number of times an expression of shock, surprise, and disbelief when they learn of my Bachelor of Science honors should have now convinced me to leave the party. But I'm a stubborn effer, and the Greens are now belligerently exclusive. The Green Party will never appeal to people from my council house northern working class demographic. They don't know how, and too many party members don't actually want to. The sad reality, they should be they should be where we go en masse to fight against the vile abuses of the exploitation of Earth. Someone else says here, all the Green Party offers is now a salve for the bruised egos of the vaguely left now hand wringing middle class brigade. They have no policies to deal with the running of the country and would ultimately bankrupt the UK. I said within a month. I don't think it would actually be within a month. Um, so I think there's some other ones here. Yeah, someone else here. I suspect the reason why the Green Party is now sitting back quietly in the background is because this position just suits them fine. Just look at the very anxious body language in the photo at the top of Owen's piece. If their bluff was even called and even a position to actually enact their policies became available, they would run a mile. Owen, quite rightly, now seen as a complete lack of aggression that put themselves forward with a timidity of running market operation, but that may be deliberately because they don't know that they might be actually punching well above their weight with their current set of MPs. Um, Someone else says here, Owen put in these things. Why didn't they run a Save Our Grannies thing? He said they didn't launch such a campaign because while effective as a pressure group on certain issues, as a political party, they remain incoherent and contradictory. I suspect that many prominent Greens were amongst those who did welcome the WFA changes because they view the world in the terms so often used by the right wing, those of identity politics, thus hitting now the wealthy pensioners living on £12,000 a year represented a blow now for the young in their eyes. The Liberal then talks about Liberal Democrats. Um, Yeah, the Greens rely on moral purity, but struggle when they actually have to make real choices. Witness their opposition now to the grid infrastructure and the move to green energy from east to west in the UK. It's actually Labour now pushing the real world radical climate change agenda here. Again, that's not, he's quite right on that. It is true. And then, of course, there are the weird green policies. The anti the anti what Caucasian, I don't even know how you say that, selections, licenses now for all pets. The anti-growth agenda look very closely and the narrow conservatism is very evident, combined with the we know best righteous attitude that irritates many working class voters. Someone else says here, yes, they are not particularly exciting, though, as I thought they could be. I agree with many of the Green Party's ideas, but wish they could just now stick to the environment and climate rather than making statements regarding what they call Israel's genocide and the like. Um, yes, someone else says here is telling your article doesn't once mention the nature or biodiversity crisis. um, Yeah. It's a bad idea to join the Green Party because it's the Labour Party you can't have. Wait until the government comes unstuck and then you'll see what happens on the left. Um, Yeah, someone else says here, I think this is interesting. Like the Democrats, the Green Party would actually need to change focus of their message. When basic needs are not being met, as in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, such as food, home, security, then the messaging about anything nice and anything DI important but not urgent rubs people up the wrong way. Some of the environmental stuff, like water quality, falls into the security message, but very little of it. The Green Party do have some good policies, but they actually need to focus and target their limited budget on things that actually resonate with the widest audience. First past the post means that they will struggle to get elected any other way. Someone else says here, one of the Green Party's problems going forward is that where they have been in power, local governments, their record has been dire. Brighton and Hove, where they spurged millions of pounds, leaning into the visitor attraction, the I-360, which didn't attract many visitors, is now the case in point. The debt has been completely written off at cost of millions now to local council taxpayers, who are now facing loss of key services. So I said here, the issue with the Greens is that they are too ideologically inconsistent. They are probably the most liberal now on immigration. However, due to their incoherent completion with the making of Britain more green, they are now the most anti-house building. You can see them being now opposed to just about everything Labour is trying to do regarding to build everything. So the Greens used to be for now lowering the population, which at least was ideologically consistent with their NIMBYism. Someone else said here, the political radicalization of the Green Party is certainly a way to try and grab the headlines, but some of the antics of environmentalists do a great deal of harm. Throwing soap, of course, at masterpiece paintings, blocking traffic just pisses people off. It gets attention, but from every advocate it creates, if any, thousands of more people are annoyed, completely destroying the messaging. No matter how much moral certainty it may be motivating with the perpetrators, most people see it as just dead wrong. The Green Party has to lay out a solid agenda that doesn't involve anything stupid or embraces solutions for the many ills of the society that go beyond displacing of the environment. They need to try and keep in mind that any mention of the Green Party immediately invokes a lot of eye rolling and images now of flying soup. And very true. I think that's it. I think that's all of them think now. But yeah, you get the idea of what I've been saying for a while. The Greens are not ideologically as consistent as they say. And I do sort of agree with one of those comments I said there, that they are maybe quite worried that, should they be, have to be put to the test. We just recently covered what's been going on down in Brighton. You know, and yet now you have, I can see it happening already. A green version of Momentum pops up, which is going to make quite possibly next year's, or at least maybe the upcoming conference for them, quite interesting. that will be fun to see, because if their last conference was anything to go by, where it was an absolute mess, and again didn't get the coverage, which I think did them a lot of favors. Like their last conference that they had was a mess, and they got really, really lucky that it wasn't covered too much. But it was an absolute mess. There was a ton of infighting going on. Lots of stuff went really wrong at that conference, and now you've got another green left-wing group saying, "Oh, we need to go for, like, push the party to these other solutions." Well, what are these other solutions? Um, mm, Fun times in the Green Party, as I've been predicting for quite a while now. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you all next time.